and good evening. I'm Melisa Idris. Welcome to Consider This. This is the show where we want you to consider and then reconsider what you know of the news of the day. Ahead of tabling of Budget 2025, let's assess the successes and the challenges of the social security initiatives that have been announced in Budget 2024 that have been implemented in the past year. Now, have our current social protections been enough to protect Malaysians from economic vulnerability, or are more targeted reforms needed? Well, joining me on the show to discuss this further, I have Professor Datuk Norma Mansor, Director of Universiti Malaya's Social Wellbeing Research Centre, and Balqais Yusoff, who is the Head of the Policy and Strategy Department at EPF. Welcome both of you to the show. Thank you so much for joining me. Prof. Norma, if I may begin with you, I mean, it's been a year since Budget 2024 was tabled and implemented the initiatives. I'm wondering whether we could begin with your assessment in terms of the effectiveness of some of the social protections that were announced to address vulnerabilities. We have so many. I struggle to name them all, but I think of Sumbangan Tunai Rahmah. I think of the Sumbangan Asas Ramasara. Bantuan Awam Sekolahan Budi, all of that comes to mind. Where do you think we're in terms of assessing the progress of the past year?
I think all the support that have been introduced have certainly helped the general public. And I think raising the eligibility from 3,100 to 3,700, for instance, for the Sumbangan Asas Rahmah did help at least the bottom 40%, but also the some of the middle income group as well. So that and also the benefit itself was increased from 600 to 1,200, i.e. about 100 ringgit a month. So that has certainly helped, and also the Jualan Rahmah has helped in general. Yeah, but there are not, but there are still gaps. That there are many people out there that may not receive the support as well, because this would go by the improvement of the eKasih database. And MyKasih, it has improved a lot since the COVID-19. The database has been improved. But again, for those who are not registered, or for instance, from our survey, the Malaysia Aging Retirement Survey that's conducted by the Centre in 2021 and 2022 shows that about 48% of those who were supposed to receive did not receive. 48%. And about 40% of those who received said that they do not need the support, and about 28% didn't even know about the benefits that they are eligible and the availability of these benefits. So these are some of the areas that I think we have to continue to improve as we go along to support.
Okay. All right, that's fascinating figures, and I'm going to come back to that. But I want to bring Balqais into the conversation. What's your assessment, if I may get kind of your broad overview of the past year and all these initiatives that have been implemented? Where are we at, do you think?
I believe that we have quite good and strong social security programs right now. And we have to say pretty much thanks to COVID-19, which actually brought to the fore conversations around social security, social protection. It is without a doubt, it is an epic tragedy, you know, for many families as they lost livelihoods, but it's also brought many new opportunities, and the government has put in very, very good measures around Sumbangan Tunai Rahmah, SARA, to help families to get food, you know, on top of whatever that they're giving. So we have sufficient programs. So and in many countries also, social security has been helpful in terms of reducing poverty. So Malaysia, I think in terms of poverty rate, has improved significantly. In the 70s, we have 49% poverty rate. Today, under the new government, also the poverty rate is at 6%, which is one of the lowest that we've ever seen since 2000, right? So there are very, very good measures on poverty reduction. However, the question to ask for Malaysians today is social security enough going forward? So as Malaysia now is an upper middle income country, so many social security programs have been successful to reduce poverty. But as we go along and try to become higher income country, it will be about reducing inequality. Right. So the question to ask now is whether the social security programs we put in place can help reduce inequality. So for instance, today our Gini coefficient is about 0.43 before social transfers. After social transfers, it reduced to 0.41 or 0.4. So we need to look at strengthening the programs, which I think the government has done a great job at putting all the social security programs in place. We have all the right programs. It's now about broadening some of the benefits being received to different categories. For instance, I'm a believer in children, allowances being strengthened. Today we have about 70,000 children from poor families getting 150 to 200 ringgit per month. That's excellent, right? It has never happened before. But we now need to look at broader based number of children getting the allowance to get support to reduce income inequality among families, right? Similarly with elderly.
Right. I see you nodding, Prof. Norma.
Yes.
Do you broadly agree with that? That we've got the right programs in place, but we need to deepen and broaden as well. What's your thinking around that?
Yeah, I think this is in line with where the country is going as well. Yeah, the Malaysian Social Protection Council, that is chaired by the Prime Minister, has adopted the life cycle approach to social security or social protection, that one needs the support in different phases of vulnerabilities in one's life. For instance, a child, as Puan Balqais mentioned. A child is poor because they are not earning. And for the aging population, yeah, so we are also experiencing an aging population phenomenon. And relative poverty, as Puan Balqais mentioned, is 17%, the national average, but 42% are among the older population. So that goes to show that a more systematic approach to addressing social protection would be the way to go as Malaysia becoming more developed. Because and when you start targeting, and you're targeting the groups, as in the poor groups, and poverty, as we know, is you can be poor, you can be middle income today, and if something happens to one of your family members or the main breadwinner, you can become poor. Yeah. So targeting poverty groups alone is not enough. And for many countries, they have tried that, just like Malaysia, and this was proven to be ineffective. The more effective way is to expand into the life cycle covering while you are, as a child, or when you're old, or when you're sick, you are disabled or orphans. So this will be the way that we are proposing that the government should take up from now on.
So this ties back to the numbers that you shared about the 48% not receiving any kind of initiatives, and 40% who received it say that they actually don't need it. When we think about having those or improvements in targeting or improvements in making sure that these programs reach the people who need it the most, what are your experiences? What conversations are being had? What's the thinking around affording these social protections?
By adopting the life cycle approach, I think Malaysia has the advantage of having the My Card, which is a powerful. Everyone has it, and the potential is great. Yeah? But whether we use it or not is another matter, because My Card can also receive transfers, can also receive money through My Card. Yeah, so if we were to use the life cycle, and you can combine the categorical, which is you provide child benefit or the old age pension or old age income security, one can use My Card, but we can use the negative list as for those that you want to exclude. Yeah, you mentioned about the exclusion error of those who are supposed to be in but were excluded, and inclusion error are for those who are supposed to be in but are who were not supposed to be in are are receiving. So by having the My Card and using the life cycle approach and using the negative list, i.e. if Melisa is in the top 10 or top 20, which you can use the admin or the institutional, the administrative data, you can easily have those names excluded. So one can just go to a post office or BSN for that matter and just show your My Card, and if your name is not Melisa, then you should be receiving it if you are 65 years old. Let's say that we introduce the old age pension of 65 years old.
Oh, and would that also address the 28% who didn't know that they were eligible for it?
That I think would require further communication and wider communication. That so even under the current system that that I was talking about earlier, about the current improved system that we have, getting the local leaders, as in the mosques, the churches, community, Jawatankuasa, Kampung, the JKK, in order for us to increase while we are about to adopt the new system. If we were to do so, even the current system, we can improve it through better communication. And of course, if you're talking about some areas in Sabah, Sarawak, which is really far out that you can't reach, then you will have to, we need more effort to reach out to them, and even some areas in Kelantan. But otherwise, using My Card will be the best way, and it's the cheapest, it's the simplest. So my suggestion is for our social protection to be simplified, and it will further reduce the administrative cost, because the evidence in other countries as well, that the administrative cost for means testing will be about 15% of the whole cost of social protection. So that can easily be transferred or be channeled to the benefits itself.
Definitely, yeah, you want to keep the cost low. But Balqais, what, being in EPF, being part of these conversations around social protections, how would you like to communicate to our audience today about the current discourse around it? Are we, you said that we have the right things in place at the moment, but how do we think about broadening it? What is the discourse as Prof. Norma has talked about the life cycle approach? What are your thoughts on that?
I think the life cycle approach is the way to go, but I think we want to be fair to the government. Targeting is a difficult thing to do, and to get 100% recipients who are supposed deserving will not be pragmatic, simply because global evidence has shown that the best of targeting program, which is Bolsa Familia in Brazil, it has about 48% exclusion error. So the broader your target group, the lesser your exclusion error will be. So if our exclusion error is as high as Prof. Norma mentioned, we are already at global best practice.
Oh, wow.
Because, which is why sometimes the conversation goes into categorical, so that let's say if you're a child below 2 years old, then you deserve the social protection and cash transfers because of your age group. It's not about your income and all that, right? Once a family has children, they will fall into some kind of vulnerabilities because the cost to maintain will be more expensive. And also, like, I just want to commend the government also in terms of benefits. I think now we get about 8 million people getting the benefits, so that's why you'll see a reduction in exclusion error. Number two, the benefits level have also increased as high as 2,500 just for the STR. And then if you add on the SARA program, is as high as 1,000 plus as well. So families are getting a lot of support. That's why we're also seeing in terms of EPF account flexible, the withdrawals have been lesser than what we thought it would be,
right. So it's been 4 months since the EPF account flexible was first implemented. Yeah. So give me an update. What's happened since? What have you discovered about how people have approached this initiative?
We initially thought that there will be about 6 million people that will come and make the withdrawal, number one. And number two, we thought our withdrawals will go to about 25-30 billion. But what's happening today is about only 4 million people actually opted to transfer some balance from account sejahtera into flexible account. And then out of this 4 million that made the transfer, only 3.8 million made the withdrawals. And a total of 14 billion has been transferred from account sejahtera into account flexible instead of 25. Okay. And out of that amount, the amount being withdrawn is only 10.8 billion. And a lot of people are leaving some amount in the account flexible for emergencies. Okay. And then based on patterns that we're seeing, people are channeling it towards loan repayments instead of just pure spending. Okay. So they are being responsible in terms of doing the right thing. And what we would like to highlight is about 7 billion from account sejahtera also went into account persaraan, which is the more important thing. So about 50,000 people overnight meet basic savings. So when we were at the height of the pandemic, only 29% of active members meeting basic savings because of the massive withdrawals. Today, percentage of people meeting basic savings is 35%. 6% improvement, partly because of account restructuring.
So how are you reading those numbers? I mean, you look at the trends, what does it tell you? What does it tell you about how people are making financial decisions, how people are thinking about long-term financial security, and how people view maybe even the state of the economy? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I believe that we have strong economic fundamentals. The World Bank has also revised our economic growth. At the same time, we are seeing good numbers coming from the contribution side. We're getting about 8 billion per month right now, and the withdrawals have somewhat stabilized through like pre-pandemic times. So we're not seeing additional withdrawals from what was normal. And for the people at large, they now know that they have access to some emergency funds. Right. That will make them a bit more rational in terms of looking at things, how they need to spend, and having this stability, because they know if something comes up, they have some liquid access to funds. So these are making people more rational compared to being irrational if you are feeling you're having scarcity of resources, right? So having that program, we believe, has shown quite a good rational decision making among our members as well. So they're not just withdrawing for the sake of withdrawing, they're putting it there because they know that we'll leave it at the time of need. And the economic recovery and all that are also not making them to rush to withdraw. So these are all good signs. And then in terms of wages, what we're seeing also, we see about 7% increase in wages overall. But of course, individual circumstances, they have different wage increase. So we're seeing that these are proxy to the economic fundamentals, and it's positive sign.
I think it's quite interesting to see the way people have behaved post the account flexible announcement, because I think there was so much concern that people would withdraw everything, and then there'd be that people wouldn't exercise financial rational behavior or financial literacy, and it's been quite wonderful to see Malaysians behave in a rational manner. Do you think that has to do with the way we have been exposed to financial literacy in the past? I mean, so much discussion about long-term post-retirement financial security that I think that said something to Malaysians about, hey, let's not be hasty, let's not be impulsive. This is considered emergency funds, right? Do you think that there has been progress in the financial literacy levels of Malaysians?
Definitely. Definitely there has been progress, but I believe things like this take time to really materialize and show differences, because financial literacy is not just about the knowledge, it's about the mindset, the attitude, as well as the behavior. So I may know something, but I may not act on it. So the more important thing is me taking action. So the numbers in EPF in terms of the account flexible is showing that they are exercising good behaviors instead of being totally irrational. So for us, the biggest contributor based on global evidence towards financial literacy or even social well-being is actually wages. So when people have income, so the move towards improving wages in this country will be very critical in terms of determining my socio-economic well-being. More than 50% is contributing through your socio-economic well-being in terms of wages. financial literacy has less impact to your well-being, actually, although it is important. So we need to couple all the interventions, not just financial literacy, but making people sure that the wage issues are being discussed as well, and then elevate wage structure. So that's why when we did account restructuring, people have a bit more income, they behave more rationally. And then it's not, and then the behaviors are better, although the knowledge may just be about average, because it takes a generation for us to really see a shift coming from the impact of financial literacy alone. Because I think I've discussed in my other forum, they did this study with in India. They did the study among farmers. So they test their IQ before getting income from the harvest and then after the harvest. So the IQ was found to be 14 notches higher after harvesting when they have income. It's the same people, they don't have new knowledge. So when you lack income, when you don't have enough wages, it puts so much pressure on you that you make poor decisions. So which is why we did the account restructuring, to give people this perception of empowerment. Now I have something, when I am in need, I don't need to go and beg or borrow from someone, because I have my own money being liquid somewhere that I can access to help me in time of need. So which is why interventions cannot just be one. So there must be other things that we need to look at in Malaysia to make the policies more harmonized and help the citizens. Because right now, the government is on the right track to do diesel subsidy, you know. So because universal benefits are not new, because we have petrol subsidy, which is universal. Yeah, we have
blanket subsidy.
Yeah, it is blanket subsidy, but it disproportionately benefit the higher income, because if I have a Porsche, you know, to drive, maybe the subsidy that I'm getting from that is 500 ringgit, vis-a-vis someone who's low income just taking motorcycle, just getting 50 ringgit. So is that fair? What if we take the same amount and give equally to everyone? Is even more progressive than just giving petrol subsidy blanket like that. So we have education subsidy, public healthcare. We have subsidy in public healthcare, public education. So now we need to look at other cash transfers that will help with income inequality.
You know, we often forget about education, public health being a form of subsidy that we all enjoy, right?
Yes.
Prof. Norma, what would you like to see? I mean, Puan Balqais has raised an important point of there should be many other interventions, not just one track to address, multiple. So what would you like to see in the upcoming budget, in Budget 2025, that will bolster our social protections?
I think it's been addressed also by Puan Balqais, that I think we have to move away from the targeting, and we are going to target subsidies. It's not going to be blanket. So the benefits or the transfers and the support has to be more life cycle, or it's got to be more universal, but it can be well tested. Yeah, that will be one way. And I think I would add to that discussion, to our discussion on social security and protection as well, is about our aging population. Yeah. That our social protection generally covers the formal sector, and yet many of our young people now are in the informal sector. So what the government is doing in trying to, number one is the labour market structure or the economic structure that we should address, and bringing in or investing more on high income kind of jobs would help what Puan Balqais mentioned about increasing wages. And secondly, once the wage get increased, then the contribution for old age pension would also kick in. However, there is still a large percentage of the population that's in the informal sector. So making social security mandatory for everyone to contribute from a very young age would enable them to, and for Malaysians to have what we call the multi-tier income generation, or the multi-tier old age income security. So for the very basic, that you will have the social transfers or tax-funded social protection, and the second tier will be that what you have contributed, and of course for those who have or the more affluent will have their own investments and savings. So I think
so a focus on addressing old
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 aged.
age income security as well.
Exactly. Yeah,
Wonderful.
thank you.
Both of you, it's been so quickly the time has passed so quickly and there's so much to cover. But I want to thank you so much for sharing your insights with us. Puan Balqais, did you have any last words to add of what you would like to see in Budget 2025?
Definitely, I have to echo what Prof. Norma says. Coverage extension for all, whether you are in the labour force or beyond, because we need to cover people to get income security when they're old. Number two, definitely I'd like to see, maybe elevated wages across the board, and the progressive wage is definitely a good way to go, but needs to be coupled with minimum wage that reflects maybe, closer to living wage. Maybe we have to look on re-employment policies, for the elderly, because healthy life expectancy in this country is 66. People can still work. So, for instance, in EPF, if you contribute 5 years more without withdrawing, that is already 40% increase in your total EPF savings. So doing that will definitely help. And then recognizing carers who are part of, today Malaysia does that, but it's only catering for a small group of carers who are in hardcore poverty. But broadening that, upskilling them as we approach aging society, we need to professionalize care work. We need to recognize some women who are overrepresented in care work and give them the recognition through income security as well, both today and at their retirement, because it's being done so that when they retire, they have something.
Yes, for sure. Thank you so much for sharing the wealth of knowledge between the two of you. It's starving. Thank you for your time. I appreciate your insight.
Thank you.
That's all we have for you in this episode of Consider This. I'm Melisa Idris, signing off for the evening. Thank you so much for watching. Good night.